This is CBC Here and Now.
New Air Canada cuts mean more bad news for airports in this province that, as you can see, are already pretty empty.
As overwhelming as everything is, for us, we just feel that this baby needs every chance because there is hope there and it's proven.
A rare and fatal disease. A couple from Harbour Grace isn't ready to give up hope. Why this mother says her unborn child is running out of time.
There are calls for the Attorney General to step down from Cabinet. A smear job or the right thing to do? Coming up on Here and Now.
Welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes. We begin with more cuts at Air Canada. Newfoundland and Labrador is losing 3 more routes. Flights between Gander and Halifax, Happy Valley Goose Bay and Halifax, and direct flights from St. John's to Toronto all cancelled.
That's another huge blow for rotational workers. WestJet pulled out of Deer Lake some months ago. You've got workers from all Central and West Coast now. They got to travel to St. John's and probably book an hotel for sure. And it's just money adding up and extra days away from your family.
We'll hear more from that rotational worker in just a few minutes. So what does this all mean? Well, the head of the St. John's International Airport is calling it one of its darkest times. Despite a dramatic dip in travel, even they weren't expecting Air Canada to cancel its direct flight to Toronto. And those in the tourism industry say these cuts make the slow road to recovery even more rocky. Here and Now's Heather Gillis has more.
There's not much on the arrivals and departures board at the St. John's International Airport anymore, and that list is about to get shorter since Air Canada is axing the last direct flight to Toronto starting January 23rd.
It's something that we thought we'd never see. It's almost like an institution.
Peter Avery is the airport's CEO. He says that direct flight to Toronto has been around for 60 years or more. He calls its loss a big deal.
We've never been without that flight, and it means a lot because there's, vital cargo that's on that flight that needs to get back and forth. There's rotational workers that need to make connections. There's essential workers that need to make connections. So
he says the pandemic's public health restrictions have slashed passenger traffic from 1.4 million in 2019 down to 350,000 a year.
We had 11 flights a day between Air Canada and WestJet each way direct to Toronto, and of course now we just lost the last one.
What remains? Direct flights to Halifax and Montreal and provincial airlines. Avery says about 10 flights depart a day, down from 40.
Well, it's devastating, not only to our industry, it's devastating for the economy.
Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador Chair Brenda O'Reilly says as airline access decreases, so does the industry's path to future recovery.
And we just hope it's not going to be the path of more to come and that it's a temporary a decision by Air Canada. We do need more help with liquidity. We would like to see the federal government extend the wage subsidy through 2021.
St. John's Mayor Danny Breen feels the same.
We're reaching out now to Air Canada to have a discussion over this to ensure that the suspension is a temporary one.
Meanwhile, Avery believes 2021 will be even worse for the airport.
Our traffic will actually be down 80%, so even more than last year.
He doesn't predict a full recovery until 2026. That's a full 5 years from now. Until then, he fears flights will come back to regional markets like this one last, leaving airports fighting for passengers with smaller airlines, less choice, and higher ticket prices for passengers. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Okay, now let's go to Here and Now's Garrett Barry, who's looking at the impact of these route cancellations on the already strapped airports in the province.
Every time you can't think it's any lower, you're crammed into a submarine and you go a few more fathoms deep. So that's where we are right now.
It's a grim prognosis, but put yourself in these shoes. A large terminal, fixed costs, but little traffic. And now, just one commercial airline.
Air Canada was a blue chip customer of ours here. They accounted for about 25% or $2.5 million a year of our revenue.
Those passengers and that money is gone. As of the 23rd, Air Canada is pulling out indefinitely. It's the same story in Goose Bay.
We had over 75 years of flying with Air Canada, so there's a long and very positive relationship with Air Canada over the years. So before COVID, they were flying 2 flights a day.
And in Deer Lake, the losses are racking up.
And we're very concerned that, our losses this year will be even greater because, of course, in 2020, we did have a few good months, if we can call them that in December, January, and February before we hit the pandemic.
It's not just across the province. These same pressures are being felt right around the world. But the question for these airport bosses is how to make sure they're not forgotten whenever normal comes back.
This recovery, when it does happen, is going to happen predominantly in the urban golden rectangle of Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal, and Toronto. So you can imagine where a place like Goose Bay or Gander would sit in all this in terms of recovery. So because our travel restrictions are among the most severe in the country, we are going to be the last dog to the bowl.
He says there must be a middle ground, balancing safety and accessibility. And he doesn't want to wait too long.
We are braced for a 5-year recovery period, but I don't want to be here in mid-January having a conversation about, booting our future prosperity down to 2022.
In Goose Bay, they agree.
But in order for demand to come back, you're going to have to deal with this quarantine business of 14 days. People are not traveling because of that. The only people that are traveling now are the ones that have to travel.
But that puts them at odds with health officials, who've sworn off things like the Atlantic bubble for at least another month. The Premier said today the federal government needs to take the lead in keeping airlines afloat. Garrett Berry, CBC News, Gander.
And still with this story, the head of the Atlantic Canada Airports Association says the airline industry needs government support if it's going to survive the pandemic. It says other countries have already provided bailouts to airlines.
If you look to national carriers like Air France, they received $11 billion. U.S. carriers the same. Delta, United, American received over $10 billion already. Our national air carriers received wage subsidy support. And I think, while they're grateful for that support, and so is our sector, a lot more is needed to get through this challenging time. These are government-imposed travel restrictions, both provincially and federally, and we need our national carriers on the other side of this to connect our country. We're at a point now where we're seeing our 4 Atlantic provinces, there's only 8 connections left to the rest of Canada. It's going to take us years to rebuild this route network, and we need support.
Meanwhile, MP Seamus O'Regan posted a statement about the route cancellations on Twitter. O'Regan said the federal government is, quote, ready to help, but any solution has to deal with refunds and the reinstatement of these vital regional routes.
Pretty similar to what we were seeing yesterday as far as those temperatures go across the board into the minus single digits, hovering around the 0 degree mark as you head towards central, and then minus single digits the story up through most of Labrador today. Not a whole lot going on weather-wise. We do have some flurries for around the isthmus and then heading towards the Avalon. Same thing for the west coast. That's generally going to continue as we head through the night tonight, but as we head through tomorrow night into Friday, watching the next system, which looks like it's going to bring some snow and or rain to portions of the Avalon and eastern areas of the island as we head into Friday morning. That moves off fairly quickly into Friday afternoon. I'll tell you how much we can expect and your full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a family from Harbour Grace is fighting for their unborn baby who has a rare and fatal disease. Kristen Penny says she's been accepted into a clinical trial in the United States, but there's a hurdle and she's running out of time. Once again, here's Heather Gillis.
We found out we were pregnant in September.
On her 39th birthday, Kristen Penny's unborn baby was diagnosed with Potter syndrome. It's a rare and fatal condition where the baby has no kidneys and little amniotic fluid surrounding it. In December, Penny and her husband Paul were given devastating news and 2 very difficult options. They could continue the pregnancy and the baby would die moments after birth, or decide to terminate.
The only concern that most mothers ever have when they're pregnant is there a heartbeat? Is there a heartbeat? And every appointment that you go to, you see that heartbeat. You hear that heartbeat. It makes it very difficult to give up on a child who has a heartbeat.
That's where another option comes in. Penny has been preliminarily accepted to an experimental trial called RAFT at the Johns Hopkins Center in the United States. It would give her fluid injections to help the baby survive.
The technology is the same as an amniocentesis, but it's done in reverse.
But Penny needs the province's medical care plan to pay for the trial, which doesn't take out-of-pocket payments.
If your province isn't behind you, you can't go.
In a statement, the Department of Health says it doesn't cover experimental treatments.
The treatment is going to give the baby a chance to survive. And at this point, this is what we're fighting for, the chance of survival.
Now Penny is running out of time at 23 weeks pregnant.
No doctor will do an infusion after 26 weeks because the lung development at that point would be halted for too long. So we have a 3-week window now for injections.
We were lucky enough to be a part of the RAFT trial and be a successful case.
Baby River is now 3 months old. She lives in California. Her mother, Ivory Nicole, had 23 infusions as a part of the trial that Penny wants to be included in.
We had 2 infusions a week where I went under general anesthesia, and the doctor would put saline and like a mixture of saline and certain antibiotics into the birth cavity.
Babies like River are a source of hope for Penny, who is flying to Nebraska as early as this weekend to seek treatment at a private doctor's clinic. She knows the procedures are risky and that they may not work. Still, she's not ready to give up on her baby. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, to some developing news now. The U.S. House of Representatives has voted to impeach U.S. President Donald Trump for the second time. This makes his the only presidency to ever be impeached twice. Trump has been formally charged with inciting an insurrection following last week's attack on the Capitol. 10 Republicans voted in favor to impeach the president, but it still needs to be ratified by the U.S. Senate. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he won't reconvene the Senate, and that means Trump's trial will have to wait until after President-elect Joe Biden is inaugurated next week. We hope to bring you more coverage from Washington ahead on Here and Now. Well, to Brook now, where a trial began late this afternoon for Thomas Whittle. He's accused of driving a snowmobile while intoxicated, resulting in the death of the passenger, Justin Pollard. Here and Now's Colleen Connors brings you the latest on a fatal incident that happened 4 years ago.
Well, I just left the courtroom where the Crown Attorney, Renee Coates, was able to give her opening remarks to the jury. Now, most of this afternoon was spent with Justice George Murphy explaining how a trial is going to work to this jury of 9 women and 5 men, who will eventually, after 3 weeks of this trial, will eventually decide the fate of Thomas Whittle. 29-year-old Whittle is from Topsail, Conception Bay South. On February 19th at 4 a.m. in 2017, he's accused of driving a snowmobile across the bridge at Humber Valley Resort, which collided with a taxi van, killing the passenger on board the snowmobile, then 21-year-old Justin Pollard. Whittle pleaded not guilty in the fall of 2019 to 4 counts, including dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death, impaired driving causing death, and impaired operation by drug causing death. It's been nearly 4 years since the incident. Jury selection took most of the day today, with potential jurors spread out over 4 courtrooms, selected through video conference. The 14 jurors' seats are spread out throughout the courtroom for the trial. All of this is because of COVID-19 safety measures. Justice Murphy asked for 14 jurors, but only 12 will be able to deliberate. He did this to ensure there would be enough jurors in case something happens. The Crown Attorney is Renee Coates. Whittle is representing himself, but there is someone else in the courtroom, Randy Piercy. He is an amicus curiae, or friend of the court. He's a criminal defense lawyer who is present to assist and give advice to Whittle, but Whittle can decide if he accepts that advice or not. Police did not arrest and charge Whittle until over a year after that incident took place, early morning hours on that Humber Valley Resort Bridge. Now, Renee Coates plans on calling her first witness in this trial tomorrow morning, and that's at 10 a.m. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Brook.
Well, police in St. John's have made 2 arrests related to a string of recent robberies, including a carjacking. Shortly after midnight on Monday, a service station on Freshwater Road was robbed. 2 men approached the counter, demanded cash. One had a firearm. That afternoon, they reportedly made off with a stolen vehicle from St. Clair's Hospital. They demanded the occupant get out before driving away. Again, they had a firearm. A short time later, the pair allegedly robbed a bank in the Churchill Square area. A 27-year-old woman is now in custody. Police say she had an outstanding arrest warrant. A 41-year-old man was also arrested. He faces a number of charges, including multiple weapons and robbery offenses. Well, the province's Attorney General is dismissing calls from the PCs that he resign from cabinet, saying it's purely political. But the opposition says it's not trying to harm the Liberal government. It's calling on it to do the right thing. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
This is the text sent by MHA Sherry Gambin-Walsh that launched the controversy. Joe Smythe was convicted of obstruction of justice for his role in a traffic stop. That conviction was later dismissed in court. But after seeing this text, Smythe complained to police, alleging former Justice Minister Andrew Parsons interfered in his case. The Progressive Conservatives say news that Nova Scotia's RCMP is investigating this claim can only mean one thing.
It is vital that the Attorney General step down from his position.
Parsons says nonsense. He says the PCs are only speaking out to gain political advantage for themselves.
This is it's a political hack smear job. That's the basis for this.
But the justice critic says it's not about parties or individuals. She says ejecting Parsons from cabinet is the right thing to do, just as Liberal MHA Sherry Gambin-Walsh was removed when she was under investigation for breaching cabinet confidence.
It is incumbent upon the Premier, in order to preserve the integrity of our legal system, and so that there is no suspicion, further suspicion, that he remove the Minister and the Attorney General from Cabinet.
Parsons says who remains or doesn't remain in Cabinet is a decision for the Premier alone, not the opposition.
In this particular case, the Premier has shown confidence in me, and I appreciate it. If something is to come out of this, I will cooperate. Normally, you wouldn't comment on things like this, but I cannot continue on and have my constituents and my family and my friends thinking that I did something wrong when that is absolutely not the case.
The RCMP in both Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador say they won't be commenting any further until the investigation into Joe Smythe's complaint is completed. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, first it was CUPE. Now the provincial government says it reached a tentative deal with the Association of Allied Health Professionals. That union represents 750 workers in healthcare, including audiologists, pharmacists, speech pathologists, and occupational therapists. The new deal expires in June of 2022. As a growing number of job sites out west experience COVID-19 outbreaks, some rotational workers argue the system public health is using is unfair and it's making life a lot harder. Here in us, Peter Cowan is here with the details. So Peter, what sorts of concerns do these workers have?
Carolyn, it's all about how you classify a job site as having an outbreak, and a big change that Alberta has made that's leading to more sites being classified. Let me explain exactly what's happening here. So, because Alberta is dealing with so many cases, they're no longer tracing back to figure out where a case comes from. So, if somebody works at a job site but happens to get COVID-19 on their off time, that's still added to the count and considered part of the outbreak. So what does this matter? Well, because for workers in this province, if their site has an outbreak, they have to do the full 14 days of isolation. They don't get to shorten their quarantine. And I spoke with one rotational worker who's on site in Alberta, and he says that's not fair.
We couldn't figure out where all the cases were coming from because we weren't told of anything on site, and the numbers just kept adding. And it's caused thousands and thousands of workers to be, locked up for an extra week when there's no need to, really.
Now, public health in this province says they're trying to find a balance. They're using information from the Public Health Agency of Canada, and what they found is that if you are coming from a site that has an outbreak, the risk is higher, which is why you need to do the full quarantine.
A significant number of workers who have come back who have tested positive for COVID-19 have actually been from outbreak sites. So, we feel that, again, trying to balance the well-being of the individuals and the health of the population, that this is where we find that balance.
Now, that's still tough for workers like Michael Dean. He works 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, which means all the time that he spends in this province, he's stuck in isolation. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, despite significant layoffs in the oil industry since the pandemic, there are two glimmers of hope for those working in the sector. First, Equinor is beefing up its presence in St. John's. The Norwegian company is closing its Calgary office and plans to focus Canadian operations in the offshore. A positive for those hoping the company will eventually move ahead with the Bay du Nord development. Secondly, 3 separate exploration drilling projects have successfully passed through the federal environmental assessment process. Those projects could see anywhere from as few as 5 to as many as 30 exploration wells drilled in the offshore beginning in 2 to 3 years.
My sense is any of the drilling activities that we've talked about, should any of those prospects be drilled and find the type and volume of oil that we believe to be in those, I think you'll see a fairly rapid response to the uptake in employment here and activity here.
But there is no guarantee this exploration will occur. The global pandemic has forced oil companies to dramatically cut spending, but Keating believes a rebound in the industry is between 12 and 18 months away. Well, in other news, a local business in St. John's is closing its doors and blaming it on the COVID-19 pandemic. Action is an indoor play gym for children with climbing, bumper boats, and other activities. It's been operating for about 8 years. But now the company says the pandemic has resulted in fewer customers. Owner Ross Squires says fewer people are coming to the facility because of the fear of COVID-19, and he says he has high operating costs. Squires posted a message to customers on Facebook urging them to support local businesses during the pandemic so others won't have to shut down.
Years ago, I wanted to open an indoor entertainment center, such as Action, and it started off with a bunch of bouncy castles, and we expanded into what we have today, with the amusement rides, bumper boats, go-karts, ropes course, airbag jump, and so on. Unfortunately, our facility has to close. The operating expenses compared to the low number of people attending Action and birthday parties due to COVID reasons just don't make the numbers work out to be able to stay open. It's unfortunate, but we do have to close.
Well, here's a New Year's resolution for you. There are 534 streets in the town of Conception Bay South, and a couple of friends has walked each and every one of them. The pair completed their challenge on Boxing Day. Since late October, Dallas Whittle and Joanne Rooney have been pushing the pavement, walking every street, side road, and laneway until they reached their goal. It was, if it was on the map, they said they made their way there. 534 streets, 309 kilometers, 33 walks. They say they were inspired after hearing about a couple of friends in Brook who did the same thing.
Just our beautiful community, all the decorations and how much work people put and pride they put into their properties. And, we came across a few things that were not so great, but, we live in such a beautiful town, and, it was exciting actually, to go home after we walked and do out the map and, highlight it.
We're doing the trailway now, just the groom trail from Holyrood to town, and then we have to come up with something else.
But it only started off with the bridge and the Three Sisters and that. So
Well, it's a video game that allows you to create your own fantasy world, but one local gamer decided instead to build his hometown. Recognize it? We'll hear from him coming up in about 20 minutes.
Hardly a breath of wind out there right now. We are watching the potential for some snow tomorrow night into Friday, but I'll break all of that down for you coming up.
The vessel and the skipper who became legendary on the Labrador coast. The Topsail Star, Sunday at noon and Monday at 7.
It is weather time, and Ashley, it was another chilly one in the east today.
Yeah, not too bad as far as temperatures go. Below zero, but yes, feeling nice. Not so much of a wind chill, which was lovely as well. Let's take a look at the current temperatures down to -3 in St. John's, and those temperatures pretty much in and around there across the island. minus 11 right now in Happy Valley Goose Bay. And like I mentioned, not a whole lot of wind happening, so not so much of a wind chill, but we are seeing a little bit of one along coastal areas of Labrador and in Lab City right now at minus 12. Taking a look at the satellite and radar, ridge of high pressure is heading east of us right now. We are seeing some flurries for the coastal area, west coast anyway. And then same thing for parts of the island as well, eastern areas of the island. We're going to see that continue tonight generally along the west coast, also up through Labrador. Lab West, you could pick up a few more centimeters. That'll head towards central Labrador overnight. And then again, the potential for a few flurries down for central areas as well as the Avalon. As we head into the early morning hours, you can see we can start to see some rain in the mix as well. Temperatures tonight, though, are going to stay below zero. They will climb as we head towards tomorrow, but overall winds will stay generally light tonight with that risk of flurries and temperatures into the minus single digits. Not moving much for Lab City, minus 7, minus 8, minus 9 is where you should sit overnight tonight, fluctuating, and then sitting into the minus teens for the rest of Labrador with winds generally out of the southwest, about 15 to 20 kilometers per hour. And then tomorrow we are going to watch the potential again for some flurries and or showers tomorrow afternoon for eastern areas. That's because temperatures are going to climb up above zero tomorrow, a few degrees above zero, with the rest of the island seeing the potential for some flurries or light snow, certainly in those higher elevations. And then same thing for Labrador with some scattered flurries moving in. And then after that, that area of low pressure that I've been talking about for the last couple of days is going to skirt south of us. Here's an idea. After midnight, we're going to see that snow start for the Avalon and then heading and spreading towards central, mainly affecting most of eastern Newfoundland, though, as we head into the early morning hours on Friday. So as far as tomorrow goes, for the first half anyway, again, temperatures staying above zero for the Avalon, hovering in and around the 0 degree mark for the rest of the island. Some sunshine, peaks of sun through central, and then continuing with that potential for some flurries along the west coast, and then staying mild, relatively mild, for the big land, with your temperature sitting anywhere from minus 6 to minus 7, staying a little bit cooler up through Nain. Now let's take a look at that area of low pressure again. So after midnight tomorrow night into the first half of Friday, we're going to see that potential for some snow, changing over to rain mainly for the southern portions of the Avalon. Then that moves off and a ridge of high pressure will move in. And we're going to see flurries along the west coast on Saturday, and then eventually clearing as we head into the afternoon, and then moving back in. That cloud cover is going to move right back in Saturday afternoon, with the next area of low pressure moving in. And this one's going to bring some snow for Labrador and some milder temperatures for the island, which means we're going to see some rain into Sunday, it looks like at this point. So temperatures are going to stay below zero, it looks like, for Thursday, or rather into Thursday night. So here's a look at the snowfall totals. Anywhere from 2 to 5 centimeters by the time tomorrow afternoon rolls around. Then that next area moves in. And as far as accumulations go, it looks like we can see anywhere from 5 to as much as 15 centimeters of snow, probably in the higher elevations for the Avalon, but that risk is certainly there. Significantly less snow as you head towards central. You're looking at anywhere from a trace to 2 centimeters. And then areas on the west coast, like I said, up in the higher elevations, you could pick up some snowfall as well. Friday afternoon, that low will move off. Temperatures will be hovering around the 0 degree mark, and then we should see some clearing skies through central and then the west coast as well. Corner Brook looks like you're going to see some onshore flurries continuing, hovering around the 0 degree mark, and then temperatures not moving much up through Labrador again. Maybe a degree or 2 here and there, but overall not too much movement. By Saturday, then we start to see those temperatures on the up, going back up to -3, -4, but sunshine sticking around. Then that snow will move in, and then temperatures hovering in and around the 0 degree mark or just below for the rest of the island. After that, temperatures will stay above zero Sunday into Monday, again with the potential for some rain. And then same thing for both central and western Newfoundland, 1 or 2 degrees above zero. You might see some snow in the mix there, certainly some things to iron out. For eastern Labrador, we're looking at temperatures into the minus single digits, even flirting with that, above zero for eastern Labrador. May see some rain in the mix, and then for Lab West, you're looking at temperatures dipping as we head into next week. So just wanted to share this quick photo with you. Wintry scene at Cobb's Pond in Gander. David and Viola Shepard shared that one with us, and if you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, if you're just breezing by, a new shop in downtown St. John's may look like a regular candy store, but the snacks inside are anything but ordinary. Underground Snacks specializes in nostalgic treats from years gone by, hard to find treats from around the world, strange cereals, special sodas, and tonight we take you inside.
I'm kind of a garbage human, man. I like it all, really. It's probably gonna have to be like the Reese's cupcakes, to be honest. They're like a crazy chocolate snack cupcake. Like you used to get those Hostess cupcakes back in the day that were like filled with the icing. Very similar, but they got like the peanut butter Reese's filling in there. They're pretty stupid. Yeah, they're pretty stupid. I'd say that's one of my go-tos for sure. So this is Underground Snacks. We're at 174 Water Street, St. John's. Basically, we import all kind of crazy candies and snacks and sodas that's otherwise kind of hard to put hands on in Canada, brother. You know, a lot of people adventurous and trying almost anything just because you can't really get it otherwise. However, we definitely do have some heavy hitters for sure. We stock the Chubbies pretty large. Everybody remembers the Chubbies from growing up and getting that mouthful or two of soda. They're pretty hard, man. A lot of people kind of get down on the Fagos here. They're more of like an American soda that we stock pretty heavily. Besides that, boys, I think it's kind of a big array of products that people enjoy. Everybody got different taste buds and everybody kind of got their own niche as far as candy goes. So to pinpoint one or two individual products that hit harder than others is kind of tough, but it's Flies likes the sodas for sure.
It literally just started with an idea. I was, literally at home one night. Once I came up with the Instagram name, and I started posting, some photos that I'm gonna, the product that I'm getting in, and literally, I will never forget. Like that night, I actually had people engaging right away. Just placed a little order, and once it arrived, it sold like instantly, honestly. So I just got more and kind of, it snowballed, to what it is today. I'm in Halifax right now, actually. We're actually at the Halifax store right now. And then, of course, we have Vince at our Newfoundland store. He's actually from the West Coast in Newfoundland, so it's great that he's there, and he's actually, the guy that helped us, with our hiring and everything like that.
It's cool to see everybody's nostalgia go off on a certain product that might not even mean anything to you, right? But they might have been 5 years old and had this candy back home growing up, and it's like, geez. It's cool to see, man. It's pretty cool to see. Everybody's different. What everybody loves is different, man. It's cool to see everyone come together over candy.
Boom.
Boom, dude. Sick.
That's so neat. I was leaning right in to see what they have on the shelves in there. They look so good. What's your favorite childhood candy or treat?
I would say it was the Flakies, Passion Flakies, but you can still get those, but I just don't eat them as much as I used to when I was a kid.
Did you open them up?
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Didn't we all?
That's the only way to eat them.
That's right.
Welcome back. Health officials are reporting another day with no new cases of COVID-19 in the province. That's the third straight day with 0 positive cases. There is also 1 new recovery, which means there are now 3 active cases with 1 person in hospital. That's the lowest level in more than 2 months. Leading up to the holidays, officials worried there would be outbreaks if people didn't follow the rules. Today, Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald, says it's clear people listened.
I want to once again express my gratitude to everyone in our province who adhered to the guidelines during the holidays. The past month was a period of great risk. You all stepped up your efforts, and it is paying off. I also want to thank the individuals who could have traveled to the province but chose not to. We have had many individuals write to us to say that they have decided not to travel because of the risk of COVID. I know for each of them that this was a difficult decision, but also a very selfless one. Each sacrifice has played a role in our success. Every day that our province is spared from the virus that has taken hold of the outside world is another day that we can hug our loved ones and move freely about our province, working and doing activities we enjoy, albeit with great care and caution. For public health, each day of reprieve we are granted buys us precious time. Time to get more people vaccinated, time to plan and refine our strategy based on the latest evidence, and time to learn from the lessons of other jurisdictions that have not been as fortunate as us.
The federal government is putting more money into combating COVID-19 in First Nations communities. The infection rate among Indigenous populations is outpacing the national average.
We are announcing an additional $1.2 billion in funding to support the ongoing public health response to COVID-19 in Indigenous communities. Providing communities with the flexibility needed to respond to COVID-19 is essential.
Ottawa will also be adding another $380 million to the Indigenous Community Support Fund. There are nearly 4,400 active COVID-19 cases on reserves in Canada. Well, to the States now, where President Donald Trump has been impeached for a second time. A week after he encouraged supporters to storm the U.S. Capitol, the House of Representatives voted in favor of impeaching him for incitement of insurrection. Thomas Degla has more.
Go, pay attention. A historic day on Capitol Hill began with a striking scene. National Guard troops, already deployed to Washington to defend against armed mobs, now given arms themselves. Road closures and barricades put up throughout the city, a reminder of last week's violence and the ongoing threat that led to today's drama in the House of Representatives.
We must impeach and remove this president from the office immediately.
Members debating whether to impeach Trump an unprecedented second time and in record time, with Democrats holding the majority needed.
What happened would never have happened if everybody stood up in unity and called out the president when he was not telling the American people the truth.
Some Republicans still pushed back.
I can think of no action the House can take that's more likely to further divide the American people than the action we are contemplating today.
The single article of impeachment accusing Trump of inciting an insurrection for encouraging his supporters to march on the Capitol on the false pretense of a stolen election.
Those in favor say aye.
No House Republicans supported Trump's first impeachment. This time, several did, with influential lawmaker Liz Cheney among the first.
As Liz Cheney was saying, there has never been a greater betrayal by a president of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution.
The House vote results inevitable, but still historic.
The ayes are 232. The nays are 197.
Holed up in the White House, in the midst of it all, Trump issued a statement calling on people not to be violent, break the law, or vandalize property. Soon it will be up to the Senate to decide whether to convict Trump. He may only have a week left in his presidency, but senators could bar him from ever running for federal office again. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Washington.
The Prime Minister of Ireland formally apologized today for the abuse thousands of unwed mothers and their children endured at church-run institutions.
The state failed you, the mothers and children in these homes. I apologize for the shame and stigma which they were subjected to, and which for some remains a burden to this day.
Yesterday, an inquiry reported that 9,000, that's 15%, of children in 18 of those institutions died from disease and infection. These so-called mother and baby homes operated throughout much of the 20th century. Young women were sent there to give birth and were then forced to give up their children for adoption. One of the biggest trials of mafia members ever is underway in the Calabria region of Italy. More than 320 defendants from a dozen crime clans are facing charges ranging from murder to drug trafficking to bribery and collusion. The trial is taking place in a heavily guarded, converted call center, and it's expected to take at least a year. Desks and video monitors have been set up for the 600 lawyers working on the cases. Journalists and other observers are also attending. The criminal organization has been operating for decades. It's spread across Italy and Europe and into North America. Welcome back. The pandemic has caused lots of people to search for new hobbies and find new ways to entertain themselves at home. Well, one 15-year-old has kept himself occupied creating an online world using the video game Minecraft. Mitchell Williams and some friends have spent the past year building a digital replica of his hometown of Placentia. Just have a look.
Well, I started the project back in January, but like it only started off with like the bridge and the Three Sisters and Esso. When COVID happened, I didn't really have much to do, so I decided that I'd attempt to recreate some of it, but like I did not intend on building all of Placentia, but I mean that's my goal now. Just decided that I'd continue on with it, and well, here we are now. But I mean, like if I had to build for like, I don't know, maybe 6 months straight, I would be a bit further than what I am now, but like I would take breaks and stuff so I didn't get sick of it and so I could continue on with it. But yeah, a year altogether. I've gotten a lot of messages and stuff how it's nostalgic for a lot of people because I mean, because of COVID, you know, people in Alberta, Ontario, they've been away from home for 6-9 months, and just people in general who used to live in Placentia in their childhood, like it's nostalgic to them because they get to see their hometown right in front of them. So just knowing that I gave them that sense of nostalgia, I don't know, it makes me feel good. The town shared it on Facebook, they made a post about it. The feedback is all good. Everyone so far likes it, especially in the community. A lot of it was memory, but like I'd say most of it was through Google Earth. I would just go to a certain location and say I was building the Legion. I would go on Google Earth and I would punch in the Legion and then I'd just look on screen so I could see the surrounding area and just build it. I've just been seeming to get all the attention, but I mean it wasn't just me, like I had people like my friends and stuff who helped me along the way, like Braden Maroney, Joshua Spurvey, Desmond Parsons, Katie Pomeroy, Damien James, like they all helped me with making the roads and stuff, like filling in the roads, and some of them helped me with the ocean, making the ocean, the beach, stuff like that. So, props to them. Well, I'm 1/3 of the way through now, so I'm hoping to get it done by the end of the year because, well, sense of the publicity and stuff, I've been urged by people to do it, so I think that's gonna encourage me to continue on for sure, but I'm hoping by the end of the year. I'm currently at Laval High School and I'm hoping to get down to the end of the boardwalk. So for me, if you're going to do something like that, if you don't put your all into it, then there's no point, you know?
Last night, we saw people in PEI playing their version of winter golf. Well, Edmonton has a new winter attraction, a 3-story high ice climbing wall at a local ski club. And as those who created it will tell you, building it wasn't easy.
Attempts to kind of get this going for about 10 years.
The idea for an ice wall kind of spurred out of some conversations that happened way back in the fall. The ice wall in Edmonton to make it more accessible for Edmontonians. And so there was a lot of moving parts and a lot of hours to make it happen. And it's actually really cool to see it now turning into a reality. So we set up a mesh to set the basis for the ice and then spray a misted water at it. It was late nights making ice throughout the night rather than during the day, and it was a bit of a trial and error process for us this year.
Close enough to the mountains that there's still a large mountain community that commutes to the mountains, so kind of a good way for people to do the thing they love and train, or to get into the sport if you're brand new to it.
Part of what we're trying to do at the Edmonton Ski Club is offer accessible recreation within our inner city, within the river valley.
Oh, very cool, literally. Well, keeping with the cold, check out this ice skater's dream out west, courtesy of the CBC drone team. Saskatchewan's biggest football stadium has become its biggest ice rink. You're looking at Regina's Mosaic Stadium, home of the Rough Riders. All it took was 1.3 million liters of water. And the best part, it's free to the public. Wow, that is ginormous. A lot bigger than the Loop.
Just gonna say.
But we've been having some really good weather for ice making at the Loop.
Yeah, and it looks beautiful. Walked by there today. Beautiful as far as temperatures go for that. But we do have some snow on the way for eastern areas. Let's just take a look at that snowfall map one more time there. We're looking at anywhere from about 5 to as much as 15 centimeters of snow falling after midnight tomorrow night and then continuing through the first half of Friday.
All right, well, that's it for us. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone.
Good night.